Good evening, welcome to tonight's Hearthstone, not half hour, probably a little bit longer. Hammy, FailCraft Casts, hope you're well and good. We're going to be picking our own arena. It's Arena Tuesday, and what we always do is jump in. You guys vote on Twitter at FailCraft Casts. Earlier you've voted between the Noble Paladin, the Rogue and Hunter, and we've gone for Valyria Sanguinar, so we are roguing it up, as you may see from this Goblin Rogue this evening. So let us, without further ado, jump in. And as I pick our Rogue and start going, and you folks start picking your cards, I will run through, as always, our three basic rules that we use to be picking. So we have an Ancient Mage, a Questing Adventurer, or a Ravenholt Assassin. So how do we pick Arena? Well, we pick Arena together for fun. You guys pick whatever you like. If there is a draw in the votes in Twitch chat, then I get Streamer's Choice and I jump in and pick. We abide by three basic rules to try and make something that's vaguely draftable. Number one, we review often. So we pick 3 points in our 30 card pick, which we review our deck. So it's going to be 8, 16 and 24, let's say, on this occasion. Number two, when we review, we take a look at a couple of sort of stats. We look at the mana curve of the cards we've got so far, as well as the spells against minions balance. The reason for the mana curve, if we've got a lot of early game cards, are we rushing? Late game cards, are we controlling? Mid game, are we trying to get into a mid game win? Looking at the mana curve gives us an idea of how our deck is going to play. The spells against minions is just another litmus test. It's a finger in the air to work out which way the wind is blowing. Do we have a lot of spells? Are we going for lots of nukes and control? Do we have a lot of minions? Are we going to be playing a lot of minions and trying to trade on the table? Point two. Point three, after that we then do a rough run through in our head, mana by mana, turn by turn, through our mana curve 1 and 0, 0 and 1 through 9, just to understand on what turn we play what. Once we've done those three basic points, we have some idea of where our deck is and where it could go. And doing those three things broadly lets us make sure that we don't just pick a deck of what seems like strong cards and then suddenly find that they don't actually work well together, and then it lets us try and establish some kind of theme and inform roughly what kind of cards we might want to pick as we go through the draft. So options 1, we've got the Ancient Mage, Battlecry, good chunky minion with the health, adjacent minions, spell damage +1. We're a rogue, we could use that, we'll see. Questing Adventurer, always strong. Whenever you play a card, gain 1/1. And of course, rogues like to play lots of cards in combo. He could build up to be nasty. And then a Ravenholt Assassin has stealth, low health for the 7 mana, will be thrown down later in the game and potentially do some nuking. What do people fancy in chat? I see a couple of assassins, a few adventurers, 3 adventurers, strong with mode combos, and everyone jumping for the adventurer. Next up, we have an Abusive Sergeant. Abusive Sergeant. I cannot even type the name of Abusive Sergeant. A Deadly Poison and a Sap. So, Abusive Sergeant, Battlecry, giving one of those minions +2 attack this turn. Useful for early game pressure, always cool. Next up we have a Deadly Poison. Deadly Poison giving a weapon to attack. We're a rogue, and of course our hero power will let us summon a 1/1. But maybe we want to perhaps buff that up, and of course we can use that with Blade, Flurry and other cards. So certainly a nice option to have in our pockets. We'll see how that comes. Last but not least, the Sap. For 2 mana, returning a minion to hand, great in terms of control, one of the rogue's key tools, and of course can trigger all sorts of combos. So a few nice picks there. People feeling for some poison, hoping for Sap later, says KSKI. I can see what you mean. Poison just generally strong. We can swing away with our weapon with it. We can buff big weapons, and don't forget that poison stays there. So if we have a big high durability weapon like the Assassin's Blade, we can have a really big trucking damaging weapon. So next we've got a Shadow Step, a Cold Blood, or an Undertaker. That's a very strong 3 pick as well. So Shadow Step used in Miracle Rogues for 0 mana. Return a friendly minion to your hand, it costs 2 less. Best with Battlecry cards, which have an effect when you play them, and Charge cards, which can attack immediately as minions when you play them too. Often comboed with Leroy Jenkins, now with the old pirate, I cannot remember which, in the Haha Rogue of the Firebat that we saw recently. Cold Blood, give a minion 2, but if you've already played a card this turn, trigger a combo, give a minion 4. For 1 mana, exceptionally good at making minions big and nasty. Could be real nice for pressure. And then the Undertaker, so strong in many constructed decks at the moment because of the amount of death rattles that people like to play. Whenever you summon a minion, gain 1/1. Throw it down, throw lots of cheap death rattles after it, and profit. A bit of a split decision here. Some people say, oh, Undertaker immediately, but others saying, oh, Cold Blood. A few ponderances in either direction. Let's see what people are fancying. Okie dokie. frantically trying to get our recent Goblins vs. Gnomes, a little bit of introduction and news up. So what are people going for? Blood is more versatile. Cold blood might be slightly better. It's looking like a blood. I'm going to say we're going with a blood. Blood for the blood god. And I'm trying to remember. It's meat for the meat god. Meat for the meat god is what one of the NPCs in your World of Warcraft Draenor garrison says, which I always find quite funny. Shield bearer, Iron Beak Owl, or an Anubar Ambusher. Interesting 3-pick there. Shield bearer, throw it down turn 1, is a wall while he gets set up. Pretty much all you can say about him. Iron Beak Owl, great for silencing, can get through tanks, other things, disable nasty card text on minions your opponent has on the table, silence your own minion, lots of situations where that can be useful. And then the Anubar Ambusher. Now, Death Rattler, returning a random friendly minion to your hand can be good if it's damaged or has a battle cry or something handy, can be a bit of a pain if it's a big high cost minion. So 50-50, but the Ambusher is of course the Naxxramas rogue pick. So rogues managed to grab that in Naxxramas. Lots of funds there to be had. Silencio, Ironbeak, Ambusham. Gotta go with the owl. We're looking like a team of owls here. Team Owl is coming out to play. Nice to have a silence. You guys values the silence too much. Yes, guy in his wisdom. We're going to grab a silence. The vote was with the silence. Well, chaos key eyes. Silence fearing, or silence avoidance cost us there. We've got one silence. Maybe we wouldn't take too many silences. I get your point there. Sinister Strike, 3 damage for 1 mana. Pretty simple. Gets buffed with spell damage. Could be a bit more nasty. Backstab, 2 damage to an undamaged. That's going to be brilliant with our Questing Adventurer. And it is a nice early game control against rushes. Free, everyone likes a free card. Lastly, the Narubar Weblord, minions with Battlecry costing 2 more. I still think there's use for this against all sorts of nasty decks at the moment, but you need to not play Battlecries yourself, which is why, although this guy's text is solid, it can often hamper you as well unless you can get rid of him. I'm reckoning that everyone's going to be feeling a bit of backstab. I reckon that's going to be our choice. I'm not going to try and influence you, but I think that this might be what you're interested in. This might be relevant to your interests. Goblins and the Gnomes coming to us soon. Yeah, that's a backstab if ever I saw one. Next we got a Mad Scientist. Hello, Mad Scientists. Tauren Warrior and an Ogre Magi. Mad Scientist, great for pulling out secrets. We're a rogue, we don't have secrets, but the Death Rattle is strong and you can always use the Death Rattle to buff Undertakers. 2/2/2, not awful. Tauren Warrior, Taunt Enrage, +3 attack, a handy 5 attack, 2 health tank, but will generally get hit off the table quite soon. Not bad for a 3 mana drop. The Ogre Magi, 4/4/4, he can probably do some trading with that sort of health and cost, and then the spell damage of 1 will benefit our rogue cards as well. Zano, of course, jumping in and saying, for pointless science! We always love a bit of pointless science. We're going to say that's a vote for the Mad Scientists, and a general sort of split between people here. People thinking of sort of various different things in various different places. Okay. Righty then. What do people fancy for pointless science? Ogre Tauren, that's just a solid 3-pick where people are sort of just not quite sure what they want to be grabbing. Let's see what we're going to grab here. Right, it's a split between 3 ways to make sure that we're going to keep things moving. I'm going to get a Ogre. Ogre jumps in, an Ogre, I guess. The Ogre it is. Tomodachi jumping in at the last minute to make that decisive play. The Gnomes Inventor or the Bloodfen Raptor. Right, healer, throw it down for attack 5 health. It will help you trade some things off the table. Slightly low attack for the cost. Restore 2 health to all characters is going to help you with healing up your hero as well as all your minions. Kind of handy. Gnomish Inventor draws a card, always good. The sort of solid body of 4 health. The attack being low, but it can trade off some things from the table. Last but not least, the Bloodfen Raptor, 2/3/2, just solid. No particular card text, does what it says on the tin there. Inventor, Inventor, Inventor. Zano going for a health. I do always need health. But Inventor gets the pick. Next we have a Voodoo Doctor, a Scarlet Crusader, or a Zombie Chow. Voodoo Doctor, throw it down, it's going to restore health. You can also restore health to minions, of course, don't forget that. 2 attack, 1 health, it will probably get removed from the table after. Scarlet Crusader are great for trading things off the table. That Divine Shield will certainly mean that its 3 attack will be used before it dies. Last but not least, Zombie Chow. You want to use this, as we always say, to attack minions and get table control. With a Death Rattle of restoring 5 health to the enemy hero, unless you can silence it, you don't want it to die and just heal your opponent's health, so there's no point attacking your opponent in the early game, only for your Zombie Chow to die if it's on the table, and then just restore that health again. So, Crusader say some, Doctor says other, actually, righty then, so options, sadness, I vote noms to be different. We've got Crusader, there's a couple of people coming out for the Voodoo Doctor. Norms. It's going to be a Voodoo Doctor. That's the vote. Next we have an Unstable Ghoul, a Goldshire, a Footman, or an Ardent Squire. The Unstable Ghoul. Right, we're at 8 cards, so as you guys pick, I'm just going to quickly review these. Ghoul, fantastic to throw down, does do damage to all minions, great against cheap rushes, or if you have cards that trigger, e.g. warrior cards, from damaging your own minions. A Goldshire, a budget tank and not of huge substance. Argent Squire, good for some trading. The Divine Shield will certainly mean that it can trade something in the early game perhaps, but really best if it's buffed. So if you cold blood one of those, and you can do something pretty nasty. Not the greatest 3-pick, but who knows, we can do some trading with it. So we're at our first review point. So remember our 3 little concepts we go for. Number 1, review often, we're doing that. Number 2, mana curve, spells against minions. All early game so far, but then when we look at spells against minions, we're spell, and then 5 minions. And then what do we do each turn? Right, well, we can throw down minions in the early game, but Doctor and Owl aren't just play as you see them. They're pretty situational. Questing Adventurer, we certainly want to buff the Gnomist Inventor and an Ogre Magi. So in our first review point, we don't really have huge intel because we've got 8-9 cards, but at the moment we've got a core of a deck that we can build from. It's good to get in the habit. What do you guys fancy from those 3? At the moment it is a Squire pick. Would you be liking something else? It's up to you. There's an auctioneer so far. Okay, people are going for some. Looks like a Squire. Next we've got a Ravenholt Assassin, a Wailing Soul, or a Cold Light Oracle. Ravenholt Assassin we've already reviewed, not going to review it again. Wailing Soul, silencing your other minions, not awful, depends on what you've got on the table. We don't really want to be silencing some of our minions, only the Questing and Ogre would sort of have problems with that. And then last, the Cold Light Oracle. You've seen this in some fish decks recently, which are trying to, along with Mukla and similar, trying to get your opponent to deck out and draw too many cards. And similar, I love the smell of Murlocs in the morning. I'm guessing you are loving the thought of picking a Murloc there, Zono. Sparta says Assassin. Okie dokie, what are people fancying from that 3-pick? Okie dokie, people are thinking of a bit of, Thresh, get him in, yeah, Assassin, Thresh, Zano, Thresh. Looks like we've got assassins, 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 assassins. People are going for the assassin. Ooh, we've got to go for them, we've got to go. I promise that the next split pick will go with you. Next we've got a Sinister Strike. Silver Moon Guardian, or a Spellbreaker for more silences and great justice. Sinister Strike, we've reviewed 1 mana for 3. The Silver Moon Guardian, that did us actually really well in our Druid draft that we went the other week. It was just sort of solid and awkward at turn 3 and turn 4 when we managed to get it out. But last but not least, the Spellbreaker with that 4/4/3 and the silence as well. Very often a popular choice. Do we fancy some silencing? Remember, our next deck review point is going to be at 16 cards. So this rogue, going to be interesting where we take it. Are we going to be controlling, throwing down minions, going for loads of spells and going up massively trigger happy? So let's see what else is going down. Alrighty then, what's it to be? What is it to be? I can see Spellbreakers, Spellbreakers, plan for this deck. Okie dokie, it's looking like a Spellbreaker. Next we've got a Gnomish Inventor. A Haunted Creeper, or Shadow Step. Okay, so Gnomish Inventor, we've got 1d, 2, more card draw, and tanking. The Haunted Creeper. Death Rattle of summoning 2/1/1 spiders, good for early pressure. Very, very good indeed. And of course the 2/1, pretty handy. You can also buff those spiders and similars. Last but not least, Shadow Step. Return a friendly minion to a hand, costing 2 less. We've rejected one of those already. Would you like to perhaps get rid? So with our deck, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell at the moment which of these are best. We don't have huge buffing options with Creeper, for example, but that will certainly let us put pressure on in the early game. Gnomish Inventor, well, card draw is always nice. So finally a bit of Shadow Step as well. Well, we don't really have loads of things with charge. We do have some battle cries that could benefit. Looks like a Haunted Creeper. Next we've got an Acolyte of Pain, a Zombie Chow, or Unstable Ghoul. Acolyte of Pain, whenever that minion takes damage, draw a card. Good for forcing some card draw, unless it's silenced immediately. Reasonably unlikely in Arena, but you never know. You're probably going to get at least 1 card drawn from that, if not more. Zombie Chow, good for early game pressure. Maybe we could grab one of those if you fancied it. And then finally the Unstable Ghoul. Of course, we've already covered 2. If you fancy an early game more, could be a good option. So some votes for Acolyte of Pain, people fancying a little bit of card drawing action. And we are slowly moving towards our next review point. So much exciting goblins against gnomes news. We must arena, and as we arena we will review the goblins and the gnomes as well. It's going to be quite exciting. I look forward to it. Okay, looks like a pain. Yep, in come the pain votes. It's going to be a pain. Next, we've got a Vanish, an Abusive Sergeant, or an Anuba Ambusher. Well, a Vanish, returning all minions to hand. It's something severe control, but I guess useful in a pinch if you're really needing to sort of get everything sorted. Abusive Sergeant, we've covered. We have neglected one of those, but would you like to grab? And then your Nubot Ambusher, well, pretty solid for the 4 mana, 5/5. Is going to pick something up when it dies. Generally, hopefully it's not on the table when you've got big bad minions around, because then that could be rather awkward. You decide. Okie dokie. What is it going to be? Feeling some Sergeant. Sergeant it is. Next we have a Worgen Infiltrator. Got a River Croc. This should wake people up. Acidic. Swamp. Ooze. Worgen Infiltrator. Throw down. Stealth. It will do some damage. Probably die with that 1 health. River Croc. 2 attack, 3 health. Will probably stick around for a turn or 2 before it gets nuked. So, pretty solid from that perspective. And finally, the King, the Lord. Indeed, certainly the monarchy of some description or another if we're working a monarchy system of FailCraft Casts. It is indeed the Acidic Swampies. Not only can he remove mighty weapons, but he can also do some good damage for 2 mana, 3 attack and 2 health. And the votes with the Ooze. Hail-Ooze. Next we have a Spiteful Smith and a Nubar Ambusher. This guy's popped up 3 times and he's really pushing to be picked. And then a Spectral Knight. So we've covered the Ambusher. Spiteful Smith, your weapon has 2 attack when enraged. Now this is pretty good for us as a rogue. Remember, we for 2 mana summon a 1/2 weapon. But if that Spiteful Smith takes damage, it becomes a 3/2 weapon, and suddenly pretty tasty. The Ambusher we've got, but then the Knight as well is also such a solid pick. The fact that it's a big fairy dragon brother, it also has the same ability of cannot be targeted by spells or by hero powers. Strong, strong indeed. Means that you can throw it down and do some strong pressure. Can see a Knights. Any others for anything else as we get to our 16 card review point very, very shortly. Any more for any more? Okie dokie. What be people fancying? So far, flare and gadgets and okie dokie. So, hey, it's going to be a Knight. Knights are all flying on in. Next, we have a Defender of Argus. Very nice indeed. A Ravenhold Assassin, making a strong case to be picked also. And then the Mana Addicts. Covered Ravenhold Assassin, the Mana Addicts. Whenever you cast a spell, gain 2 just for this turn only. Okay, if you've got lots of cheap spells. We don't have loads, but we could have some. And then finally, the Defender of Argus. Well, creating tanks, he goes where he pleases. Argus does need a lot of defending. And for that Battle Cry, 1/1 and Taunt. For 4 mana, you're creating 2 tanks on the table and taunts and lots of solid table pressure. Argus it is. Next, another Ravenhold Assassin. A Cold Light Seer. Are we going to open that Murloc door? Or a Blade Flurry? So, Assassin we've covered. The Cold Light Seer giving all other Murlocs 2 health. Great if you have Murlocs. At the moment we have none, but we may have some. And then last but not least, a Blade Flurry. While destroying a weapon and dealing its damage to all enemies is certainly going to help you clear the table, particularly with our Deadly Poison. Very nice combo. So we are now at 16 cards, so we're going to do our review. Step 1, review, which we're doing. Step 2, look at the mana curve. We're still early to mid-game at this point, not really a late game at the moment. So at the moment we're looking at early game, maybe a combo of minions and spells, pressure ending in early to mid-game perhaps, we'll see. And then finally we review spells against minions and then do a quick run through in our heads. So we've got a spell, that's 3 spells. I then see, yep, just the 3 spells, rest minions out of those bunch of cards. So how are we going to play turn by turn? Well, we don't have huge minions. We've got various, again, Abusive Sergeant, situational. Ardent Squire, we can certainly buff with a Sergeant. So we've got a couple of minions to help us trade in the early game. Ooze can remove weapons for us, or we can throw it down as an early game pressure play. Creeper actually will now let us pressure in the early game as well. Owl, Acolyte can pressure and trade and draw cards. The Questing Adventurer, let's play loads of cheap cards after that to get it nice and big and buffed and strong. We can then actually nicely tank up perhaps a Questing Adventurer or Inventor with our Defender of Argus. The Magi will also benefit from Defender of Argus, as will the Spectral Knight and Ravenhold Assassin. So at the moment, tentatively speaking, keep control of the game in the early to mid-game with minions more than spells at the moment, because we don't have loads of spells, and then end the game at mid-game, but we do have the Ravenhold Assassin as a late-game backup. So for coming to our review point, it looks as though we can kind of take this deck either way, depending on what you fancy. Blade Flurry in some quarters, the Murloc Door. We're going to go with the Blade Flurry. I promise that the next 50-50 will be yours, aren't I? Next we have a Mogushan Warden, an Ancient Brewmaster, or an Iron Fur Grizzly. The Mogushan Warden, well, for 4 mana you've got a nice solid mid-game tank. The Ancient Brewmaster, returning a friendly minion from the hand to your battlefield, from the battlefield to your hand even. Bouncing up a card, throwing it back down, be nice and strong. And then the Unfair Grizzly for 3/3/3, just a real nice solid tank at that point of the game, with a little bit of offensive capability as well. Okie dokie, what's it going to be? No ship greasing ourselves. Oh, bring in the brew. Zano with a deciding vote. Stone. Okie dokie, let us go. Looks as though, okie dokie, pandas, a panda it is. Next we've got a Questing Adventurer, an Ancient Watcher, or a Wailing Soul. We've covered the Wailing Soul, we've got 1 Questing Adventurer, do you want 2? The Ancient Watcher is worth noticing because for that 4 attack and 5 mana, of course it can't attack unless you silence it, or if you make it into a tank, let's say a Sun Fury Protector or a Defender of Argus, nudge nudge, wink wink. You can do some nasty, nasty, nasty things. So, the Ancient Watcher, the Ancient Watcher gets 2 votes. Due to Zano and Tomodachi pooling votes in a pooled voting initiative. It's like a neighbourhood watching collaboration scheme. It looks as though Watcher is in the lead for that reason. Okay, Watcher it is. Next we've got a Shattered Sun Cleric, a Jungle Panther, or a Razor Fen Hunter. 3 cards we haven't had. Shattered Sun Cleric, give a friendly minion 1/1. The 3 attack and 2 health will mean it can trade something in the early game, and then the buff will help another minion do likewise. Strong in early game. Jungle Panther, low health. low health indeed. However, the stealth will mean that it will live for a turn, do its 4 probably before passing away and perishing. Razorfin Hunter is a 2-for-1. Summoning that ball will help. It's not a huge token that is summoned, but it will help to 2 attack, 3 health, of course. You can probably trade something in the early game as well. So which of those do you fancy? 20 out of 30 cards, moving on further. What do you fancying? Okie dokie. He's looking like a clerics all over. Next we have a Shadow Step, a Murloc Raider, or a Conceal. So Shadow Step we've rejected twice. Yeah, it doesn't have quite such utility if you don't have charges, I get that. Murloc Raider, I said I'd pick the next Murloc or a Conceal. Give you a minion stealth until your next turn. Not the best 3-pick in the world. I did say I would pick the next Murloc. The Murloc it is then. We're going for a fun combo of some serious and some not so serious. So we're almost to our final card review point, 8:16 at 24 we'll do our final deck review before pushing forward. Been a bit of a tough pick this one actually. Zombie Chow we've covered, do you want one? Rejected it a couple of times. Shadow Sun Cleric, we've actually got, I believe, 2 now? No, just the one, could go for another. And then last but not least, Assassinate. Destroying an enemy minion for the 5 mana. So Assassinate, nice control. You're obviously going to be using that for best value and pressure on, let's say, something ideally that costs more than 5 mana or something that's really in your way. So it was a big tank preventing you from, a taunting minion preventing you from swinging for the victory. That might be a good, sensible play. So, it looks like Assassinate has got the pick. Next, another Shattered Sun Cleric, a Wolf Rider, and a Vanish. So, Wolf Rider charges in for that 3 attack and 1 mana. It will be getting itself removed shortly after. But it will do the damage in the early game. And then finally, Vanish. Well, we've had not had it down right now, but you know, maybe we fancy some late game clearance. The thing is with Vanish, if our opponent has played a whole bunch of big minions, then we'll see how it goes. Sparta asking in chat, did you do Molten Core? Yes, I did. I queued for 2 hours, and then Molten Core took 2 hours. As a little Warcraft aside, well, people pick a card. Warcraft-wise, I did do Molten Core. I've actually played WoW since vanilla on and off, but I primarily raided in the early days of WoW. And in Molten Core, as an instance, you need to do a lot of decursing, removing of curses, and a lot of dispel magic, a lot of removing of magic buffs, debuffs, and curse debuffs on your raid. And it's as if everyone forgot this. So you're sitting there with horrible debuffs on Luciferon and Magamdar and similar bosses, which is oh so painful. But I did get there, I got the mount, and I got my epic helm, so that put me on item level 621. Next, we are here to play Hearthstone for the time being. We've got Raid Leader, Assassin's Blade, and the Silverback Patriarch. So, Raid Leader, buffing our other minions for 2 attack. Well, 1 attack, sorry, each. Do we want some more? The Assassin's Blade, well, very nice with the Deadly Poison. That gives us a 6 attack, 4 durability option. If we combo that up. That can be removing minions hitting to the face. Really, really, really strong. And we have just had some clearance from Shep's agent. Oh, look who it is. Shep has joined us. I'll just spin this around to feature him a little bit more fully. Oh, no, he's gone. He was clearly not impressed by the sitting arrangements. We will try and activate dog cam. Everyone going for some blade in the meantime. The Patriarch are okay tank for its level, but the Assassin's Blade just so strong. So let's grab that in. Yeah, maybe Shep will join us again. We'll just we'll trigger the cam in the corner, so the cam is ready should Shep decide to return. There we go. Dog cam is active. Okay, right, we are getting there. So right, 25 out of 30. I'll give you your final few picks, and then we're going to get into some games and see how we go. We've got a Frostwolf Warlord, a Murloc Tidehunter, or an Earthen Ring Farseer. So the Warlord, 1/1 for each other minion on the battlefield. Good if we've got minions down, we can then put more pressure on the deck with it, and it can be a big, nasty, almost mid-game finisher. Tidehunter, 2 for 1, early game, additional pressure and chipping away. Then the Farseer, restoring 3 health, 3/3/3, really just solid for it. You know, its stats are average and good. And then the restoring of 3 will certainly help us heal back our hero. If indeed we're going to be swinging away with our, beg pardon, newly acquired weapon, that might be really, really strong. What be you fancying? Okie dokie. Yeah, it looks like a Warlock. Sparta getting stuck in there and going for some Warlordage. Okie. Right, we're almost at our final deck review point. So let us go and take a little look. Right, at 25 cards, we can now see 1 mana curve. We're really early to mid game. We want to be putting pressure on the early and mid game with whatever we have card wise, and hopefully finishing at mid game because we don't really have big backup in the late game. Spells against minions. I see 3 spells up the top there. We then move with a Blade Flurry for 4, which I kind of forgot to count last time. As we zoom down to the bottom, there's only Assassinate as well. I think that's 5 spells total, plus a weapon with 6 weapons into the 19 or so minions. Last but not least, let's play through the deck. Right, we now have lots of early game options with the Murlocs. We can pressure in the early game, tip away for chip damage, and try and trade minions. The Shattered Sun Cleric will help us do that by buffing up some of our smaller minions like Haunted Creeper. And in the midst of there, we've got things like the solid Ancient Watcher that we can silence or turn into a tank. A very big early game pressure house. Wolfrider will help us trade. Brewmaster is now another solid minion. As we get into the mid game, we can then really solidify our board. Hopefully we have more minions than our opponent. Brewmaster, Argus, Gnomish Inventor, creating tanks and trading away minions into our Spectral Knight and Spellbreaker. So we need to be finishing the game mid game at this point. Assassinate and Ravenholt will help us in the late game if we really need, as will Spellbreaker. But it will give us some options there. So this deck, looking at the moment in our quite right, Tomodachi says we are lacking late game, or we have a lot of early game. We really need to grab control and do a lot of damage in the early to mid game and secure the table by mid game so that we can finish with our 4 and 5 drops. The Ravenholt Assassin is a bit of an afterthought. We got, well, everyone's going for Murlocs. The Murloc vote has overwhelmed. So we're looking for a funish deck, I think, on this occasion. Now remember, we're not always picking the best deck, it's what you guys want to be picking, so we will make the best of what we get picked. Fan of Knives, 1 damage tool, draw a card, good card draw, good against aggro decks, nothing wrong with that. Of course, benefits from spell buffs, spell damage as well. Ascendant Shield Master, brilliant basic, just nothing really wrong with picking him, given that for 4 mana he's just going to solidify the mid table really nicely, as well as that mid game too, rather than mid table. Just slap him in the middle of the table, straight in the centre circle, and then the Voodoo Doctor, Battlecry restoring 2 health. We've got, I believe, 1. Would you like 2? I know you guys love to say that I can do with all the health and help that I can get. If you want me to have health and help, then that would be a really nice strong option to go for. Okie dokie. What do you fancy? The Shieldmaster's come in, and the Shieldmaster is Strangle. Strangled on target, Betrayal or Shadow Step. We've already covered Shadow Step. Betrayal, force an enemy minion to deal damage to the minions next to it. Brilliant if there's a big nasty minion, let's say something like a giant or something similar, or multiple giants. Can be really, really nasty. Last but not least, Strangled on Tiger. You throw it on the table, 5/5/5. Don't unstealth it, like I managed to do in one game. I managed to unstealth my minion. Quite frankly, when I didn't mean to. That was not so great. But for the 5/5/5, it will do some nice damage. Again, reinforces our mid to late game and is another pressure, potentially winning option or similar for us. What's it going to be? I feel like the lack of my picks is a betrayal. We have a Murloc. 2 Murlocs. I feel like the lack of my picks is a betrayal. I think that's a vote for a betrayal. I don't think it's a genuine comment on picks. Who knows? Deafest Ringleader. Murloc Raider, Fan of Knives. We've covered the Fan of Knives. We've got a Murloc Raider. Would you like another Murloc? Also, don't forget the Deafest Ringleader. Brilliant for rogues. Where are the wisps? I don't know where the wisps are. For a combo summoning a 2/1 bandit, you throw something else down, then throw that down and get a free minion. Really nice card. Really nice rogue only card. Would be wonderful for us to pick. We would all love more wisps. We would all love more wisps in our lives, but I'm not quite sure this is the time for those wisps to rear their heads. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows or dares to dream? So, what's it gonna be? Ringleader, more wisps, please. Ooh, Murlocs. Give me a Murloc or a Deafest Ringleader. It's a split. It's a split. It's a split. I'm gonna go with a Ringleader. I'm not gonna be late for it. We've got a Wailing Soul, a Murloc, Tidecaller. Ah, look, if we're gonna have a... Well, look, there's 2 picks there that you guys are gonna absolutely love. The Murloc Tidecaller I know you're gonna love, and also the Angry Chicken. Enraging for that +5 attack when it's only got 1 health and can't even enrage. Ooh, the Murlocs. The Murlocs, the Murlocs. Ooh, Murlocs and all chickens. Well, do you know what? That's quite a tough pick. If we were going for a solid arena draft, you'd be sitting there and going, oh my goodness, what's going on? However, Murlocs and chickens, you just go for whatever you fancy. And Shep is clearly overjoyed to see the Angry Chicken and Murloc Tidecaller as well. And a little tail wag there. A little tail wag. We do have buffs for the chicken, said Tomodachi. Actually, yes, a fair point. A fair point. Chickens, please. Okay, I think that's the way we're going with this draft. It's been a long day. I know I've been a bit slow. We've all been distracted. Let's do the chicken. Yeah, why not? Angry Chicken, go! Okay, final review. Well, we are early to mid-game. We have to get control of the table in the early mid-game, otherwise we're going to be in trouble. What do we do in the early mid-game? We throw down our solid minions that we picked. Some of them solid, some of them not so solid. Some of them like our Angry Chicken and Cold Blood. Bonus points if we can get that combo to trigger. And then, for once the chicken might have a chance to get angry, says Tomodachi. It may well do. I think it should. There's no way I can screen grab that, so we're just going to leave Shep up. Okay, so arena-wise, we've gone for our pick. And now we're just going to get in some games. We're going to get maybe 2-3 games tops in. Oh, okay, and we can chat goblins and gnomes, we can chat all kinds of things. Should be fun. Let's see how it goes. Now I'm going to be publishing a little bit of Goblins vs Gnomes. I'm going to be publishing that video that we just made as well as doing some other bits. Right, again, Cold Blood, Living the Chicken Dream, but we really need to kind of trade most of that in because I'm going to keep the Ringleader, but we need an early game drop. Backstab, that will trigger the Ringleader. Murloc Raider, perfect actually. We're pretty happy with that. For turn 1, we're playing a shaman. Shamans have so many ways to control with their lightning and their spells, and their general aggressions. But turn 1 raider, turn 2 backstab into a ringleader. We like that. The bright side of a deck such as this with lots of early to mid game minions is we throw them down when we see them. We're going to be able to do. The deck kind of sort of flows into itself. I'm not going to say it's just sort of mindless. Mindless would be harsh, but it certainly has a lot of things which we just throw down and play. Don't need to make too many massive decisions on some of those things. Okay, down goes Murloc. So there's nothing for me to backstab. I would ideally like to be. I can actually weapon up, and then I can look at doing something else next turn. We can pressure away. I could just have sat on that weapon, but until I get a deadly poison. Remember, we've also got an assassin blade as well, so probably the deadly poison and assassin blade would be a better combo than throwing it on one of our small 1/2 weapons. But we shall see. We shall see indeed what people fancy. So card changes dropping just before we went. Okay, pondering by our shaman opponent. He is fearing the chicken. I think our opponent is fearing the chicken. And who could blame them? Chickens are scary. Ooh, much pondering. Okie dokie. It's going to be right. Just down goes an Unbound Elemental. We want to get rid of that. Is there a way that we can get rid of that? Well, a backstab into a Deafest Ringleader would get close. I think it's actually probably worth let's backstab it. That'll trigger our combo. I'm actually happy to sacrifice our Murloc. I know that is going to disappoint you folks, but our Murloc has done his duty. What is this about changes? Asks Zanor. So there have been some changes in an upcoming patch, quote unquote. There's going to be a change to Sulfire. Sulfire is going to cost 1 mana. There's going to be a change to Gadgetzan Auctioneer. It's going to cost 6 mana instead of 5. And then also Flare is going to cost 2 instead of 1. So subtle changes in mana, but going to affect a bit how those cards are played. And if you want to check it out, the video is here. And then the post, I'm going to give you the post as well. The Blizz post is there for the new changes. So, just a couple of balance changes as our shaman friend throws down a totem. In comes an Iron Beak out. Well, we can just start trading away those. I'm going to grab a new weapon as well. Why not? So there's no point betraying, and I don't really want to waste my Iron Beak at this point in time. So we're just going to start putting some pressure on. I'm waiting to see what the shaman does. Seems to be struggling for some card draws. Okay. I cannot spell the word Gadgetzan Auctioneer. I really struggle with typing the word Auctioneer. Oh dear, oh dear. Alrighty then. We see a totem going down. If in doubt, throw down totems. It has never done a shaman harm when they have been going for that option. Okie dokie. Righty, so we now have a Thank you to me, and he's gone for the ringleader with the lightning bolt. Interesting, a bit of an overload as well. We don't mind this too much. Now, on the off chance that Shane does pop a Doomhammer, we may as well keep the use in hand. But I really don't think there's too much harm in just doing that. Swinging in with a weapon. We're not getting quite as far ahead as we would like. We could chip away for more damage, but all of these cards are sort of in hand. Now, should I have thrown down these minions and be chipping away for more damage, or should I have saved the silence and the destroying opponent's weapon ability? Did the auctioneer need a change, do we reckon? Yeah, it wasn't everywhere, but the decks that it was in, I think that they just don't like, Blizzard just aren't massive fans of what they see as uninteractive games, and if someone is just going through a massive, huge combo, then they see that as being uninteractive, and that's what the auctioneer drives really at its core. It's a card draw engine, a beastly card draw engine. Pretty much. So didn't need it. It's not as though you saw them running around everywhere, but the decks that it was in, it did sort of force a particular style of play, so I do get that. Alrighty then. Opponent pondering and contemplating, only 4 of the 5 mana due to last turn's overload. Oh, the Oracle comes out. Rock by a weapon, shooting in, going to get that removed. Okay, so we get a Wolf Rider. Also get an Abusive Sergeant as well. Okay, so at this point in time we're not in an awful situation. Options galore, options are plenty. Well, I can throw down a Spectral Knight. That'll be a strong play because he's not going to be able to hex that. Let's not forget that. I'm going to throw down the Sergeant. This is not using the +2 for the strongest. Of course, that doesn't benefit anyway, but getting that minion on the table means that I can threaten a trade with that Oracle. Okay. Okay. What options do we have? I see a totem going down. So, my brain is a little bit slow this evening, so I do apologise for that. But our opponent is playing slow, there's nothing wrong with that. 3 to 4 damage. Ooh, okay, and remember, of course, that is an area spell. So for that reason, it is going to get the Spectral Knight. Because it's doing damage to all minions, it's not targeting a minion specifically. So if you look at the card text, can't be targeted directly. Well, it can't be targeted by spells, but one of those area spells is not directly targeting the minions. So it is words that are making the difference there. Right, so I'm going to just do 1 damage to that totem with a view to removing it next turn because we saw that additional spell damage doing pressures. Thoughts on the card changes? Flare seems fair, says Honor. A nice bit of poetry, indeed a poet, and you don't know it. I reckon Soulfire could have been a 2-drop. Yeah, Soulfire, it's not going to affect it as a late game finisher, but what it will do is sort of in the early to mid game when people are trying to remove tanks and similar out of the way, it will give them food for thought. Speaking of removing tanks, I think our time has come with our Iron Beak Owl, or we could just assassinate him. What do you reckon? Let's just assassinate him. Right, let's go nuts. Why don't we go crazy? I'm going to use the weapon to remove, and then let's suddenly pop out of cover for a whopping 10 damage. Wow, look at that. Soulfire was very strong indeed. Okie dokie. Hexing comes and hexes our big minion, which is sad, but there you go. Okay, righty then. We now have a flame tongue totem. We have all kinds of minions removed. A bit of an earth shock as well. Well, that is frustrating. However, there are things we can do. Do you reckon we should cold blood a frog, or should we save it for a chicken? Thoughts, please. Should we cold blood that frog? I think that could be quite fun. We've got 2 silences, we've got mini options. Both tempting. I think we're going to, tell you what, let's go for it. Let's go for it. Do it. Oh, we could just double silence. Double silence. That'll be evil. Let's do it. Let's double silence into a cold-blooded frog. I love this play. Oh, I love it. I love it. It's only the 4 attack. Okay, quick. Attack for more. Attack for more. Alrighty then. Okay, so we've got our opponent down to 5. In comes a lightning bolt to thwart our poor frog, and of course the nasty fire elemental has gone down, so we are not out of the woods yet. Blade flurry will destroy a weapon, deal damage to all. The heal is nasty, but it's not everything. The ooze, we kind of just need minions on the table to sort of pressure our way through. So let's throw down minions, thinking that he can't possibly deal with them all. There's no point me really betraying unless something goes down next to that fire elemental. Blade flurry again, there's no real point me doing that. So we just need to try and get this guy off the table. Can he heal himself next turn? Can he zap all of my minions next go? I do have weapons and simmer in hand. So there are options there. Pressure on options. 2 health left. Ooh. A stunken blow with a Storm and Night charging, removing the minions, removing them all. Can he remove the owl? In comes a heal, restoring him to 4. My goodness, we are not out of the woods yet. And then the heal, topping up his minions. We could actually be in trouble, folks. Oh, what a top deck that was. In comes a deadly poison. There we go, the blade flurry to all enemies, helping us finish for the win. Good game. Righty then. So, as we've been running a little slow due to our opponent there, and we've got 1 win, let's see if we can finish off with our final game. Make it 2 wins. Follow up our epic 7-win, 3-defeat deck with your wonderful druid deck that you picked the other week.
Watch your back. I will be your death.
I will be your death. Oh, it's Valera versus Valera in a mirror match. Mirror match to the end. So now let's see what we're going to grab here. Right, okay, in a rogue v rogue, I don't really want any of those because I'm on my early game pressuring minions. So we're going to go for a full-on mulligan. If there was a mulligan strategy there, let's just throw everything back. We will need our chicken saviour to help us in our hour of need. Okay, well, an abusive sergeant. I'm going to throw that down. If our opponent really wants to chew that up with a weapon, then they're welcome. Righty then. Pressured away. Goodbye to the sergeant as we knew. Interesting calling into the weapon to get rid of that. I probably wouldn't have gone for that if I was our opponent. I'm quite happy for him to waste. Well, not waste. I mean, if it was something like an Undertaker or something similarly aggressive, there's nothing wrong with wanting to keep the table clear. But I kind of think that maybe a coin could have been spent on something a little different. Oh, so nasty. Ooze. Traitorous ooze. We've been oozed against. Down goes a Murloc Raider. I'm going to hope that that gets removed. Well, the ooze is traded for that, but if there's anything that a rogue has, it does have the ability to pick off single cards. So, single health cards, or single cards indeed, with assassinates and saps and all that kind of thing. Oh, here is our saviour. Down comes Prince Demolisher as well. Well, silencing things. Do you know what? I'm quite happy to silence that Demolisher because we can always bounce it back to hand and use it again. I'm going to trade away that, which is fine. What can I do? I'm going to save the chicken because I think we need to cold-blood it. Our aim is to cold-blood that chicken. Can we make it happen? We'll see. Smash, crash, bang, wallop. Dagger Mastery flies in. One to the face. Okay, in comes Demolisher, Mad Bomber as well. How was the Mad Bomber dream? We want to see the bombing dream. 2 self and 1 to my unpick out. Good, the Mad Bomb was on our side. So the Assassin's Blade. It's sad that I do not have the Deadly Poison, but that will really help me start clearing up the table. So I'm actually going to go for the Assassin's Blade. I'm going to remove that bomber. Lovely. Now I can always save this because one Acidic Swampoos has gone down. Hey, this is Arena. He could have a whole deck of Acidic Swampoos. We just don't know. But I'm hoping that that doesn't get removed. A very nice weapon indeed. Okie dokie. Acolyte of Pain coming down, taking some damage and drawing a card, shiving his own card. So drawing a card with Shiv and drawing with the Acolyte of Pain. Very nasty, right? So the Angry Chicken in Rage Dream is real. That's good. It always makes us happy. I don't really want to be assassinating any of those things. I will Brewmaster into a chicken because, well, why not? And then I'm actually going to remove that. Yeah, I do give him another card. Remember, our opponent has shivved his own Acolytes, drawn 2 cards from that manoeuvre, and then I've given him a third, so he's done quite well out of his shiv, and also out of that Acolyte. But at least we managed to get it removed and done. In comes a Cold Blood. It's Cold Blood Wars with these rogues, and that is now a 5/4 Demolisher with Attitude and Fear. So that is going to explode and nuke everything off the table. I think it's probably worth dropping an Assassinate for that reason. Yep, may as well. There we go, that's all gone now. I can. Sadly, even though we no longer have the chicken, it's just a spare moment's thought for that chicken. It was a wonderful chicken. I'm going to take the damage. This is, in fact, probably a bit of a silly idea. I'm a little bit low to be taking that kind of risk. But the question is, can I rush him down with my remaining minions, or can he do 7 damage to me next go? That was a gamble indeed. A gamble that may prove rather silly. Probably should have not taken 5 damage to the face when I'm so low. Probably shouldn't have, but hey, that's a very often call that we make. Probably shouldn't have done, but actually ended up thinking about it, so. Probably shouldn't have, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
This guy's toast.
Okie. Right, we then have an SI7 flying in. Can I really be taking much more damage? And he's fan of knifed and removed all kinds of things. Playing the Nourish Inventor first would have been a better play because I would have then drawn something. Right, so we're kind of on the cusp of, now I could really go aggressive with that and he could then just assassinate me, or I can hit him to the face to try and set up a lethal next go, but it all depends on the card draw. I'm going to take the risk. Let's hit him to the face, make him think that I'm reaching for the lethal by sort of attacking to the face. So let's take a gamble. A gamble to finish this game. Just believe in the heart of the cards, says Tomo. Wait, wrong game. Wrong game indeed. Okay, we are on the cusp of a finish. Is it going to be awesome? Is it going to be terrible? 7/7, removal of all kinds of things and backstabs and SI7s, and in comes the Reckless Rocketeer, charging up with a weapon. If only we had some charge cards. That's going to put us on 1. A mere 1. Oh, a little bit of BM there to finish things off. Right, well I can destroy that weapon, but we're not going to be doing anything else. Oh, the BMs. Yeah, we're going to get killed next turn anyway, so we will concede. So there we go. 1 win and 1 loss. Not the worst, not the best, but a fun arena nonetheless. So, thank you so much for tuning in this eve. We drafted our deck with some early to mid-game fun with some pressure, with a hint of check-in and a hint of Murloc. So, not the most serious arena in the world, but good fun anyway. Do come and tune in. We're going to be doing loads of stuff for Goblins vs. Gnomes. Come and join us. Twitch.tv/FailCraft Cast live if you've been watching this on a YouTube. If you're not, check out YouTube. Throw us a sub there if you like it. youtube.com/FailCraft Casts. Over 100 episodes of the Hearthstone Half Hour, and including other episodes like Arena Tuesdays that we've done today and similar. Look on Twitter at FailCraft Casts. We'll always tweet there just shortly before we're going to go live on the stream and with any news and similar. And the website's failcraft.org. You will get a bunch of other stuff there too, including news articles and things that don't live so well in video form. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully see you soon.